A young student who worked part-time at a public swimming pool was found dead at her workplace, shocking the local community. When the police arrived at the scene, detectives discovered several important pieces of evidence, but as it later turned out, the case was far more complex than it initially seemed. The longer the investigation went on, the more eerie and disturbing details emerged. Despite the complexities of the case, the detectives managed to unravel the mystery of the crime. Alexandra Kemp, known to her friends and family as Ali, was born on October 11, 1982, in a small but thriving suburb of Kansas City, Leawood. This town was considered one of the best places to live and was ranked among the 50 most prosperous cities in the country. Ali grew up in a loving family. She lived with her parents and two brothers in a cozy home, where her childhood was filled with activity and a variety of interests. From a young age, she was curious and tireless, eager to try her hand at various pursuits. During her school years, Ali attended 19 different clubs and activities, was passionate about sports, particularly soccer, and maintained excellent grades. In 2001, after graduating from high school with good marks, she enrolled at Kansas State University, where she began studying ecology. The profession she chose was meant to allow her to help people and contribute to environmental preservation. Among her plans was a trip to Russia for a student exchange program, where she wanted to work with orphans, providing them with the necessary support. After completing her first year in the summer of 2002, Ali returned home for the holidays. At 19 years old, she planned to find a part-time job and spend time with her family before heading back to school. She was also eagerly anticipating a reunion with her boyfriend Phil, with whom she had been in a relationship for 5 years. Although they attended different universities, their relationship remained strong, and summer break provided them with the opportunity to spend time together. To be closer to each other, Ali and Phil got part-time jobs at the same public swimming pool, where there were several shifts. Phil worked in the morning, Ali in the afternoon, and her younger brother took over in the evening. On Thursday, June 18th, Ali came in for the afternoon shift to cover for Phil. She briefly considered asking him to stay with her at work, but changed her mind as they had a date that evening that she was looking forward to. The day was overcast, and there were few visitors at the pool. Ali, immersed in a book at her desk, awaited the end of her shift, unaware of the horrific events that would unfold next. As evening approached, Ali's younger brother arrived at the pool to start his shift. To his surprise, he found his sister missing from her post, although her personal belongings, phone, keys, and bag were on the desk where she usually sat. The young man searched the area, hoping to find his sister, but not locating her, he contacted their parents. Worried, Ali's father rushed to the scene. As the situation seemed strange, his daughter would never leave work without taking her belongings. Filled with concern, the father decided to check all the pool's facilities to rule out any possibility of her being there. He entered each room and soon reached the technical area where the pumps were located. In this dark, poorly lit corner of the pool, he initially saw nothing suspicious. However, just as he was about to leave, he noticed a rolled-up tarp on the floor from which a leg was protruding. Approaching closer, the man was horrified to realize that his daughter lay before him. Ali was dead. Her body was covered with traces of blood and bruises, and it was evident that she had been attacked. The young woman was missing her shorts and underwear. Her father immediately called for an ambulance, but unfortunately, they were unable to save her. Ali passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital. An autopsy revealed that she had suffered a severe head injury, and the cause of death was asphyxiation. Medical experts also found numerous cuts and bruises on her body, indicating that she had desperately tried to defend herself against her attacker. The police promptly began their investigation. In the pump room near the crime scene, an open bottle of pills from a first aid kit was found and immediately sent for testing. The analysis revealed traces of male DNA on the lid and the surface of the bottle. Experts also discovered biological samples on Ali's clothing that remained on her body. Upon comparing all the samples, the experts established that they belonged to the same person. However, identifying this person proved to be more difficult. His DNA was not in the FBI's database. As they started checking potential suspects, the police focused on Ali's boyfriend Phil. Given the brutality with which the perpetrator had dealt with the victim, investigators suspected he might have had personal motives. However, Phil claimed that right after his shift ended, he went to hang out with friends, and several people confirmed his account. The young man provided the police with a DNA sample, which, as expected, did not match the sample found at the crime scene. Ali's father and her younger brother also submitted their samples, and the results were the same. The perpetrator's DNA did not belong to any of Ali's relatives. Grief-stricken, the father spent the entire night at the morgue, refusing to leave his daughter, unwilling to leave her alone even in death. The next day, when the townspeople came to express their condolences to the family, he solemnly vowed to find his daughter's killer and seek justice, no matter the cost. Shocked by the news of the murder, the residents of the quiet town, where such tragedies rarely occurred, actively shared any information that could help the investigation. The police received several important leads, one of which raised particular concern. Several people reported seeing a suspicious man wandering near the pool the day before Ali's death, hiding behind bushes and filming people. Some witnesses also noticed a similar man in the parking lot in front of the pool. He was sitting in a beige Ford pickup truck and closely observing the happenings, but none of the visitors recognized him. Phil, Ali's boyfriend, added another significant detail. Ali had previously confessed to him that sometimes she felt uncomfortable working alone. She mentioned feeling as if someone was watching her, although she had never seen anyone specific near the pool. This strange and unsettling fear seemed to be corroborated by the accounts of other witnesses, and the police began to suspect that this unknown individual might have been her stalker. Ali's friend, Laurel, also told the police something noteworthy. On the day of the murder, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Ali called her to complain that she was feeling lonely. Laurel decided to stop by the pool to keep her company. When she arrived, she honked several times, expecting Ali to come out to her. However, an unknown man emerged from the pump room and waved at Laurel. She took him to be Ali's supervisor, thinking that he might be unhappy about her visit, so she left to avoid causing her friend trouble at work. This account raised alarming suspicions among the detectives. It was likely that the man Laurel saw was the murderer. As a result, the police created a composite sketch of the suspect based on her description and immediately circulated it through local newspapers and television stations to reach as many people as possible. Phil also got involved in the search, organizing a mass distribution of flyers featuring the composite sketch and a description of the suspect. He gathered friends, acquaintances, and other volunteers, leading to thousands of flyers being posted throughout the city and its surroundings. Despite all the efforts made, the police were still unable to close in on Ali's killer. In desperation, the girl's father raised $50,000, offering this amount as a reward for any information that could shed light on the crime. But alas, this too yielded no results. At one point, he had another idea: to place the composite sketch of the suspect on a billboard along the busy highway that he drove to work every day. After consulting with the police, Ali's father received their approval. However, the police warned him that their department did not have the budget to rent a billboard, and the man would have to cover all expenses himself. Determined not to back down, he reached out to an advertising agency that sells billboard space to inquire about the rental cost. After hearing his story, the company staff offered to provide the advertising space completely free of charge, expressing a desire to help solve this high-profile case. Ali's father, touched by their support, gratefully accepted their offer. Together with the police, he prepared a banner design that featured the composite sketch of the suspect, an image of a car matching the description of the perpetrator's vehicle, and information about the $50,000 reward. The appearance of the billboard on the busy highway attracted the attention of many people, and within a few weeks, investigators received over 1,000 tips. The police meticulously checked each one and soon came across some very interesting information. One local resident reported that the composite sketch of the suspect resembled a man named James Streeter. Detectives went to speak with Streeter. The man insisted that he was at work at the time of the murder, and his boss confirmed this alibi. The police temporarily cleared him from the list of suspects. However, soon a new tip came in again, pointing to Streeter, and during the investigation, it was discovered that he owned a vehicle of the same make and color as the suspected perpetrators. Additionally, in police databases, investigators found that Streeter was wanted in 2 states for a number of serious crimes. In just 3 weeks, this man committed 3 rapes and 2 kidnappings. He first attacked his ex-girlfriend, then threatened her to accompany him while he looked for a new victim. Shortly after that, Streeter attempted to break into someone's home with the intent to steal. However, at that moment, a 14-year-old girl happened to be walking down the street, and noticing her, he threatened her and forced her to get into his car. After Streeter took the girl and his ex-girlfriend to a secluded location, he assaulted them, then abandoned them and fled. Later, he tricked another woman into opening her door by claiming his car had broken down. Threatening her with a knife, he forced his way inside, assaulted her, kidnapped her, and tried to take her to another city, but the victim managed to escape. Strader was eventually apprehended in Utah after he left a gas station without paying for fuel, prompting employees to call the police. During a routine stop, officers discovered he was a wanted man. Smirking, Strader suggested that it might be time to put him in handcuffs. Detectives investigating Ali's murder requested a DNA sample, hoping for a match, but tests ruled him out. Strader was sentenced to life in prison for his other crimes, and Ali's case once again reached a dead end. Months passed, with no new leads. In the fall of 2004, police received a tip. A man reported that the composite sketch resembled someone he knew, Teddy Hoover. Hoover lived in Kansas City and worked for a pool maintenance company. He had been near the pool on the day Ali's body was discovered and had been questioned at the time, but had not raised any suspicion. When detectives interviewed Hoover again, he struggled to recall the events of that day. Asked to provide a DNA sample, he refused, saying he needed to consult with a lawyer first. Although there was no direct evidence linking him to the crime, his evasive answers and refusal made him a prime suspect, and investigators decided to place him under surveillance. Later, the detectives decided to contact Teddy again, but they were in for an unexpected surprise. He had suddenly disappeared along with his girlfriend. No one knew where they were. A month later, the police received a new tip. Although Teddy was not officially wanted, someone reported that he and his companion had moved to another state, Connecticut, which was 2,000 kilometers away from Kansas City. This fact looked suspicious. Moving such a long distance immediately after police interest in him could be an attempt to flee. The detectives reached out to the Postal Service in Connecticut to see if Teddy had updated his address. However, the attempt was unsuccessful. The Postal Service found no records of a new address for Hoover. Then, the investigators decided to try tracking down the whereabouts of his girlfriend, and this time luck was on their side. They discovered that she was receiving mail in a small town called Bantam. However, a curious mystery arose for the detectives. At the same address, mail was also received by a man named Benjamin Appleby. A check in the database revealed that Appleby had an extensive criminal history, including convictions for robbery and harassment. This caught the police's attention, especially considering that Teddy Hoover had similar convictions, including an active arrest warrant for indecent exposure. In this situation, the detectives began to suspect that something strange was afoot. Postal Service employees, who regularly delivered mail to that address, reported that they had only seen two people in the house. They also stated that the man introduced as Appleby bore a strong resemblance to Hoover. The suspicions deepened, and the police reached out to their colleagues in Connecticut for assistance. When they arrived at the house, they confirmed that Teddy Hoover indeed lived there, after which the man was arrested under the warrant for indecent exposure. Meanwhile, the detectives investigating Ali's case traveled to Connecticut to prepare for Hoover's interrogation. In the interrogation room, they set up a board displaying photographs of the victim, Teddy himself, and crime scene images. The investigators hoped that such a visual tactic would psychologically pressure the man and force him to confess. When Hoover was brought in for questioning, his behavior changed dramatically. Noticing the photographs and materials on the board, he became noticeably anxious, which did not escape the detectives' attention. Almost immediately after the interrogation began, the man confessed that his real name was Benjamin Appleby, and that Teddy Hoover was the identity of his deceased friend, under which he had been hiding to avoid arrest under an active court warrant. However, as soon as he revealed his real name, he immediately began to deny any involvement in Ali's murder. This denial, however, did not last long. 10 minutes after the interrogation started, Benjamin began to give a statement. According to him, on the day of the murder, he arrived at the public pool intending to speak with the manager about the possibility of collaboration. His company offered cleaning services. While waiting for the meeting, Benjamin noticed Ali, and she immediately caught his attention. The girl was in the pump room, and he approached her, trying to start a conversation. Ali responded politely but coldly, and without any apparent interest. When he tried to give her several compliments, she, noticing his persistence, attempted to leave the room. However, Benjamin blocked the door and then tried to touch her. Ali immediately pushed him away, but this only angered Benjamin. Losing control, he began to beat the girl, hitting her hard. Then, tearing off some of her clothing, he intended to assault her, but at that moment he heard car honks outside. Realizing that someone might notice him, Benjamin decided to strangle Ali so that she couldn't identify him. He covered her body with a tarp and headed for the exit. Outside, he saw her friend signaling from her car, and to avoid raising suspicion, waved to her. The friend left, unaware of anything suspicious and following her. Benjamin also left the crime scene. Surprisingly, some time after the murder, he returned to the pool again. At that moment, Ali's body was being taken out, and the police interviewed him as a random witness. He didn't raise any suspicion and calmly drove away, remaining off the police radar. Benjamin ended his confession by stating that he could not explain why he committed this crime, and that he deeply regretted what had happened. According to him, he actually liked Ali, and he lost control when she rejected his attempts to get closer. After receiving his confession, detectives sent his DNA sample to the lab for testing. The results confirmed his guilt. His DNA matched samples found on the victim's clothing and on a pill bottle discovered at the crime scene. When detectives asked Benjamin why he took pills from the first aid kit, he admitted that he was looking for something to use as a lubricant. However, the day after his arrest, he hired a lawyer and stated that he was retracting his confession, even though just a few hours earlier he had insisted that he did not want to put the victim's family through the ordeal of a trial. With his DNA found on the victim's clothing, the chances of avoiding punishment were extremely slim. At the trial, Benjamin's lawyer insisted that the murder was accidental, but he failed to prove such a ridiculous claim. In 2005, Benjamin was found guilty and sentenced to a minimum of 50 years in prison. This meant that he would not have the possibility of being released until at least 2054, but release was not guaranteed. Considering that at the time of sentencing he was 29 years old, the chances of him ever leaving prison were extremely low. Since then, Benjamin has repeatedly tried to appeal his sentence, but all his appeals have been unsuccessful. Each of these attempts has become a new trial for Ali's family. The girl's father tirelessly fought to ensure that his daughter's murder remained behind bars. In memory of his daughter, Ali's parents organized self-defense courses for women and named them in her honor. This project gained wide popularity and became a significant movement. During its existence, tens of thousands of women have been trained in the self-defense courses. Moreover, Ali's father received recognition at the state level. He was invited to the White House to meet with President Barack Obama, who awarded him for his contribution to women's safety and the organization of self-defense courses. The president highlighted the importance of this initiative and thanked the man for being the first to suggest posting information about wanted criminals on billboards, a method that proved to be exceptionally effective, was subsequently widely adopted by law enforcement agencies. Thank you for watching the video to the end. If you liked the video, be sure to share your thoughts and impressions in the comments. We value your opinion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on new investigation releases. That's all for today. Take care and stay alert.